Good afternoon, everybody. It is me, Brian Holloman Williams. I decided I would go live this afternoon with some thoughts that I have had. And I guess the title of this stream is What Happened to the Pricks. Over the last, I'd say, 4 to 5 months, I've heard lots of diagnosis stories. Um, People who were diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, parents of children who were diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And more than a few times, I've had a conversation with parents as well as some T1Ds as well about how doctors are no longer checking blood sugars on every doctor's visit. And again, I've had this story told and I've had these conversations multiple times over the last 4 to 5 months. And I think about when my kids were young. And at one point, I guess after I started paying attention to it, I realized that their pediatricians weren't checking their blood sugars with every well care visit or with every physical or even sick visits. Their blood sugars weren't being checked. But I didn't think a whole lot of it, because I'm type 1 diabetic. I have monitors at home. And from time to time, I would check their blood sugar, on my own, especially when they got sick or wasn't feeling well or was showing symptoms similar to those that lead up to type 1 diabetes. So, listening to a conversation in another group that I'm part of, which is Before Aware, that was created by a friend of mine, Tara Gray. Great group. So, this message is not just for the tribe, this is for everybody, people with or without type 1 diabetes, people who live or don't live with individuals with type 1 diabetes. This is just information for everybody to consider. But listening to the video conversation, the interview, Tara was speaking with another mother whose son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and just listening to the story. Um, I would say it was heart wrenching, but there was a point where I found myself angry because in this particular situation, the kid had seen the doctor a month or two prior to diagnosis. And at the time of diagnosis, the kid had already fallen into a coma because of diabetic ketoacidosis. But a month or two prior to that, if his blood sugar had been checked, it would have been seen. It would have raised some red flags to treat him or to even diagnose him at that point and start the treatment for the type 1 diabetes. And that's not the only story that I've heard in my lifetime where people have gone into comas or passed out for a short period of time because of high blood sugar. And they had been to the doctor within the previous 2 or 3 months. And there are tests that you can run to see what your blood sugar has been over a 3 month period or for the past few months. The hemoglobin A1C test. But the question is, why aren't doctors naturally checking blood sugars every time a patient comes in? When I was growing up, I got my finger pricked every doctor's visit, even into my 20s. I got my finger pricked. I mean, now at this point, when I go to the doctor, I carry my monitor. Um, and I could just tell my doctor what my morning sugar was because I'm checking my blood sugar multiple times a day. And with continuous glucose monitoring, it's obvious, it's evident that you're aware of your blood sugars. But this again is more for parents of children who don't have type 1 diabetes. But would it not make sense? Wouldn't you want your pediatrician or your kid's pediatrician to check their blood sugar every time you go in? It makes sense, right? I don't know what doctors may be checking and what doctors are not checking. I know personally of some doctors that aren't doing it. I've got friends in my T1D tribe who know of doctors who are not checking blood sugars of children that they see on a regular basis. And there are probably pediatricians out there that are checking it on a regular basis. Um, I don't know, and I can't say this across the board, but I just know for a fact that in a lot of areas, in a lot of lives of people that I know, that doctors are not checking blood sugars as they should. I mean, again, I've heard too many stories, too many stories. Too many stories go the way of, the kid gets sick, passes out, may not pass out, but starts experiencing all these crazy symptoms and then lose weight like that. And by the time you get diagnosed or you go to the doctor or to the hospital, you're fully in DKA, diabetic ketoacidosis, and you have to spend time in the ICU. Imagine the number of parents who've gone through this not knowing, not aware of diabetes or the symptoms of diabetes, but have had to go to the hospital and have a doctor tell them, we don't expect your kid to survive the night. That story, that bit alone is more common than you think, more common than you know, of experiences that people have had. Um, my parents went through it, and I know of other parents that have gone through it. But how do you fix that? How do you bring that to the attention of those that need to hear it, those that can make the difference in these medical practices? And I don't know, I got a gang of friends that are in the medical field. And if you see this video, let me know if there's a place or an entity or an organization that you could suggest that can be reached out to. I mean, what route do you take? Where do you go? Who do you call? I mean, do you go individual practices saying, hey, I want you to check these kids' blood sugars every time they come in? I mean, think about it. Most kids that are healthy, that hardly ever get sick, you go to the doctor at least once a year. Let's say you go to the doctor in January. There is no blood sugar check. There's no blood drawn. And the doctor says, all right, you're good to go. And at that point, you're not sick, you're not experiencing anything. yet. But you don't expect to go back to the doctor for another 12 months. But you do start to feel sick and have these symptoms. And not being aware of type 1 diabetes, what it is, what it does, what it looks like, what it feels like, even what it smells like. Look up the symptoms. You know, you look at your kid and be like, well, you know, it's something that's going to pass. It's okay. You're just not feeling good today. You'll feel good tomorrow. Or eat this, take that. All the while, that pancreas is breaking down, not producing insulin. Blood sugar is creeping up, creeping up, creeping up, creeping up. And it happens slowly. But at the point of DKA, it happens rapidly. The downside comes, and it's just brutal. Brutal. So that was my thought. Quick thought, just what happened to the pricks? Has anybody else noticed this? Has anybody else really cared about it? Has it been on your radar? Have you thought about it? You know, you're taking your kids to the doctor on a regular basis. Are your doctors checking blood sugars on every visit? It has to happen. Imagine so much that you can prevent just by doing that. Yeah, for kids, it hurts. Nobody likes to get stuck with needles or pricked or anything like that. But if it's something that can save your life, it's worth it. It's worth the discomfort, the pain, the drop of blood. We've all been through much worse. So again, if anybody knows of a place or what organization governs hospitals or practices, we got to find this stuff out. And Tara posted in the group before Aware pretty much the same thing. You know, who do we call? Who do we talk to? Where do we go? And again, friends of mine in the medical field, I would love your thoughts on that, your input, info. So let us know. But to all my T1D family, I love y'all. I hope that everybody's doing well today, that your sugars are good, and that you're taking care of yourselves and keep fighting the good fight.